Hello everyone. Hello everyone. How are y'all doing tonight? I'm Gyrnos here to talk to you a bit about the Van Richten's guide that's to Ravenloft that's coming out in about 11 days. Um, forgive the super simple setup here. Of course, cats start jumping all over the place. Gotta love those little kitties. So, hope y'all all doing alright tonight. Today I'm going to be running through race classes for characters that you could use in upcoming games set in Ravenloft. Just seeing what feels right for the setting and what classes and races may have powers that could be even more effective than normal in a horror genre setting. As you see, I got my little D&D Beyond set up right here. I got it trimmed down so that you're not going to see the full screen, but you should be able to see the text of this stuff uh, while we're there. And there's Isabel in the chat. Hello, honey. Just going to do Heart Dragon Heart. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started with races because we got a lot to go through on this. So um, if you have any comments or questions, feel free to throw them up in the chat and I will answer them as soon as I notice them. But here we go. We're going to start off with the races, and I went through this mostly in alphabetical order. So we're starting with the dwarves, because of course we are. And particularly of interest is since we're looking at a darker setting in both physicality and stuff, races that normally you think of as being subterranean are actually not that bad here. So get ready. So we're going to be starting off with the Grey Dwarf, the Duergar. They have a natural resistance to illusions and against being charmed or paralyzed, which is going to help in a lot of situations that you're likely to face, because those are some big ones that Undead like to throw at us. Particularly zombies and ghouls have ghouls have a paralyzing claw attack, so it doesn't affect elves, but Duergar, you'll have resistance on it. You'll also have resistance against illusions and being charmed, which will really help if you're coming up against some vampires. The built-in enlarge reduce at 3rd level and the invisibility at 5th can only help. And since Ravenloft and most other settings are generally considered overclouded and gloomy at best, you're unlikely to have to deal with that sunlight sensitivity very much. So get ready for me to say that 2 or 3 more times today as I get to go like, yay, we can play these things without a penalty for the first time in like ever. Let's see here now. So the other dwarf race I really recommend, and just because it's so good, is a hill dwarf. I mean, you don't get the +2/+2 from that you do with the mountain dwarf, but that dwarven toughness where you get a +1 HP per level, if you pick up the tough feat, that becomes a +3 per level, and that is even better. You're going to have a nice fat pool of health points that bad guys are going to have to whittle away through. Let's see here now. Moving on to the elves. Of course, the high elves are a really good one. That weapon training proficiency gets you some nice martial weapons right at the very beginning. And the cantrip, excellent. If you're not looking to be a caster, or if you're not looking to be an intelligence caster, I really recommend a utility cantrip like Light, since again, this is going to be a fairly dark setting, both in content and in visual. Then having that extra light source without having to worry about torches or lamps definitely does not hurt. Let's see here now. Moving on, then, just like with the Duergar, we have the... Don't know what's up with my mouse. We'll worry about that later. Moving on, just like the Duergar, we have the Dark Elf or the Drow. You have the superior dark vision just like the Duergar, which really helps. The sunlight sensitivity is less likely to hurt you in this situation because, again, overclouded and gloomy is the name of the game here. The Drow magic spells and the weapon training are both excellent. Hand crossbows are great. I don't care what everyone else says. The hand crossbow meta is wonderful, especially when you have the elven accuracy to increase that chance of hitting. The Dancing Lights and the Fairy Fire are great low-level spells for either providing extra light or dealing with invisibility. I don't know all of what we're going to be seeing, but I would not be surprised if we come across a Invisible Stalker or a Sulk. I think they were called Sulks. That invisible childhood friend that apparently will kill you. I can't remember the name of it anymore. I'll have to look that back up later. Darkness spell. You may get some use out of that. It's a magical darkness, so even if you're going up against something with dark vision, that'll make them unable to see use just as well. So, I mean, if you're both on equal footing, right? Let's see here now. Then we have the Eladrin. Of the Eladrin, what I really recommend is the Winter one. Not for any particular ability, even though the Eladrin do have that really nice far step ability. And being able to frighten things when you far step is great. But just because the Winter Eladrin seem to really fit the theme of this, being dark and gloomy. Let's see here now. And then the Shatter Kai. These I don't see played much at all, but that Constitution buff and that resistance to necrotic is going to be really nice when you're coming up against certain undead that do some serious necrotic damage. The fact that you can get a teleport as a bonus action once per long rest does not hurt, and the resistance to all damage when you teleport is even nicer. Okay. So that's all the elves I really have to recommend. Then we're going on to the halfling. A lot of people don't know about the Ghostwise halfling. It was in the Sword Coast Adventurers guide, I believe. I recommend this one wholly just because of silent speech and the fact that all halflings are by their very nature resistant to fear. So you have a communication method that cannot be spied on or listened in on, which is useful in this. We've been told that a lot of these adventures are going to be more exploration and social pillar and less combat pillar, especially in the Adventurers League. And I have heard the Adventurers League may be loosening their rulings on the PHP +1, so this could become a option for you if you don't mind it. Again, I have no idea if it's true or not on the PHP +1 going away. So follow that with a grain of salt. The other halfling I really recommend is Stout, because again, the resistance to fear, but also the stout resilience, advantage on saving throws against poison and resistance to poison damage. A lot of people don't notice it, but there are plenty of undead out there that will do poison damage or will poison you from just being close to them. I know for a fact that the Ghast, if you're too close to it, you will get poisoned, which will give you a bunch of negatives and make it a lot easier for the ghouls to drag you off. So this is a strong one if you don't want to worry about being frightened or being poisoned. Moving on, half-orc. Half-orcs have no subtypes, but just honestly, the half-orc is a really great tank race. You get the intimidation skill, which some people don't get much use out of. I personally say it never hurts to roll it, especially if you want to be scary. This ability score increases by default make you really tough and really strong. With relentless endurance and savage attacks, you can keep fighting even if you've taken some serious damage, and you can deal some serious damage yourself with those crits. Tieflings. The base Tiefling is great, but looking at the subtypes that came out in Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes, I really like the Furnia. With the Friends, the Charm Person, and the Suggestion spell, you're going to be dealing with a lot of scared and twitchy NPCs, so this one may give you a little bit of a leg up when dealing with them. Of similar note is the Glacia. I'm fairly sure I mispronounced that name. Tiefling with the Minor Illusion. The disguise self spells make it a lot easier to deal with NPCs and that are maybe not necessarily as easy to get along with. And that invisibility spell at 5th, even if it's once per day, is great for when you need to make a quiet exit. So definitely worth looking at. And the final Tiefling I really want to recommend is the Zeriel Tiefling. The Thaumaturgy cantrip, you can take it or leave it. Some people love it, some people hate it. But the 2 smites, like smite without having to take one of the specific classes that give you access to that spell, is super nice. My only issue is that you can't cast them with spell slots. So they're basically one shot, but you know what? If you need them and you have them, use them. Let's see here now. Then looking at the moving on from the player's handbook and going to Volos, we have, of course, the Asthma or Asthma. I'm not sure which is the official pronunciation, but the Fallen Asthma just fits with the setting and embodies the feel of Ravenloft and the Domains of Dread, and that Necrotic Shroud ability can let you turn the tables on a couple of the more frightening creatures if they're not immune to the frightened condition. Most undead have some resistance to necrotic damage, so don't ride on that extra necrotic damage. But yeah, that frightened effect definitely could be useful. We also have the Protector Asthma as one of my suggestions, for the same reason as the Fallen Asthma. The secondary ability, in this case Radiant Soul. Flight is always good. Even if it's just for a moment and only 30 feet, flight is great. That can get you up above a zombie horde where you can pick things up and drop them, or carry your friends out of the way. The extra radiant damage is wonderful in this situation because so many undead and other creatures are vulnerable to radiant damage or have their immunities or other abilities turned off when they take a radiant hit. So don't be afraid to pop that on a hard fight. I mean, you only get it back on a long rest, but you know, if you drop and because you're saving it, then you don't get to use it either way. See here, then we have the UNT Pureblood. This one is a little outside the feel for Van Richten's. I mean, you don't think Snake Person or Sneeple in Domains of Dread, but their innate spellcasting, the poison, the animal friendship, and the suggestion trait are all really good manipulation spells. But more important, that advantage on saving throws against spells and other magical effects, as well as the immune to poison damage and the poison condition, can really come in handy, I think, in some of these upcoming stuffs. They also get 3 languages, which is just sweet. I don't know, I like having extra languages. Let's see here. Then moving on from Volos, we're going to take a look at the Eberron, and specifically the Changeling traits. We do know that there is a Domain of Dread, Sire 1313, the Morning Train or something like that. I don't know the exact details of it, but we do know that there is a Eberron link to here, so I figure we'll take a look at a couple of the Eberron classes. And the Changeling, I Can Steal Your Face, is a really useful one for infiltration and dealing with, maybe less than cooperative NPCs. The fact that you get 2 proficiencies in social skills really is nice. If you're leaning into the pretending to be other people, I recommend Deception and maybe the Actor feat as well. Let's see here. If we moving on to Shifter, the 2 Shifter races that I really like for this is Beasthide, again for the same reason that I recommend the Stout Halfling, and the Hill Dwarf is just, you have that extra constitution, and then you also get temporary HP when you shift and a +1 armor. This is just a straight up survivability thing. But if you're looking for more of a flavor, the Longtooth is definitely werewolf adjacent, and that kind of fits with this. The fact that you can do strength damage on a bite that does not need your hands. Really useful if you're a caster and you get in a tough situation. Even if you don't have the best strength modifier, you can still cast a spell and then bite with your bonus action. See here. Then we move on. This one was a little bit of a dark horse for me. The Simic Hybrid. While Ravenloft is nowhere near Ravnica, as near as I can tell, the Simic Hybrid outside of the Simic is a really good feel for like body horror. You have animal parts and weird appendages that you can reflavor as it's being grafted onto your character however you want. And honestly, the enhancements are not that bad. Nimble Climber, climbing speed is great. It's the next best thing to flying. Same thing with underwater adaptation. The Manticore Glide, you can take it or leave it. I love the Carapace with bounded accuracy and limitations on the maximum AC that you can get through normal means. Having that +1 AC, which when you're not wearing heavy armor, is great. And since it's not a calculation change, it stacks with other AC boosts, so does not hurt. Acid Spit's a decent one, but you can get better attacks that scale with your level. Though, honestly, this one does scale with your level pretty good too. But that limitation on the number of uses, just, if you burn through it, and at least you needed it when you used it. Let's see here. Then we have the ones that are going to be coming here. This is just the UA version of the Dampier. We've already seen a couple previews of it. We know that the creature type, the dual creature type is gone. It's going to be just straight humanoid. I guess the dual typing, they decided against it for whatever reason. Let's see here now. The bite is relatively unchanged. The damage dealt by the bite has been changed to the piercing damage dealt by the bite. So it's not as an insane a buff, but it's still pretty good. The fact that it still counts as a simple melee weapon means it can combo with the monk's abilities, it can be used for smites, and it can be infused by artificers. So a lot of stuff there. Speaking of artificers, we're just about to the classes, so let's see, the Hexblood, much like the Dampier, there was not a lot of changes to this. The creature type is Fey, which, as Isabel pointed out to me, means that they are completely immune to hold person. So feel free to enjoy that while everyone else gets held. You moving around free. Anything that triggers off of the humanoid subtype, the Hexblood is going to be free from danger with. Most of the other parts have stopped. Stayed the same. Just like the Glacia Tiefling, or the Zeriel Tiefling, where you get class-specific spells, the Hex Magic, getting you the Hex spell outside of any class, is really nice. And the fact that you can cast it with spell slots makes it, like, so sweet. The Magic Token received a few tweaks, but nothing that really changed how it functions. And then the Reborn, just like the other two, had their dual typing stripped away, so it's just a humanoid. You're no longer a humanoid and a construct, or a humanoid and an undead, which honestly I'm not terribly upset about, because humanoid undeads are a little vulnerable to stuff. Like, if you have a cleric in the party that uses turn undead, and you happen to be an undead, you're kind of SOL. So it makes a little bit more party cohesion. The Deathless Nature is pretty much unchanged, as is Knowledge from the Past. So this is really all around a good one, especially if you have Elves in the group, then you're working at the same long rest interval as them. Let's see here. So moving on to classes, Artificer is the one I'm starting with. The Alchemist has a very mad scientist feel to it by default, and when you add spells like Raise Dead towards the end of the progression, and the experimental elixirs, plus alchemical agents and the restorative reagents, you have a very strong off healer that can deal a lot of poison and acid damage, and can just embody the I am a madman, I have this bubbling thing here, why don't you take a sip? This other one for the Artificer that I think would kind of fit pretty well with this, but this one is a bit of a stretch, is the Battlesmith. Beyond just being able to make attacks with your intelligence, the main feature of the Battlesmith is the Steel Defender. Now, by default, most people assume the Steel Defender is a mechanical dog, but it is by definition a medium construct. And that is really all the official guidance we have on this. So you can instead skin this as your personal golem that you're walking around and tinkering with, and flesh golem or stone golem if you want. I mean, flesh golem feels right for this. So you can be a Frankenstein and have your own monster with you. Yeah. All in all, the Artificer is really new to it, and I can't think of a bad subclass for this class to be in here. These are just the two that I feel are the most fitting. Let's see here now. Then moving on to the Barbarian, I really recommend the Path of the Ancestral Guardian. This is just like, for this, because you're literally haunted by spirits. And I mean, yes, they are helpful spirits, but they're still ghosts, and the DM can totally just say that they're following you around all the time if you and the DM want. Let's see here now. The other one I really like for this is Path of the Beast. This is very much in line with the Shifters as being you have a touch of lycanthropy or something in you. And sometimes it just gets to the forefront. The bite and the claws are really good. I'm not overwhelmed by the tail, but having the reach, a longsword with the reach and the ability to apply to your AC does not hurt. Final Barbarian I recommend is Path of the Zealot. There's a lot of undead that will just straight up kill you if your max HP drops to 0 or for other reasons. So having someone that can just come back from the dead for free is not a bad thing. The Zealous presence is great, but the Rage Beyond Death, where if you're dead, you're still going as long as you're not dead, is a nice little touch. And you can flavor this as becoming more and more imbued with holy energy, or just moving farther away from what life and death means. However you want to flavor it is up to you and the DM, after all, right? So then moving on to Bard. We do have a Bard subclass that's coming in this book, but first I wanted to take a look at the College of Lore. Those cutting word features, super great. Turning a hit into a miss for your ally, for your attackers, will definitely keep you alive, and is a really good use for your Bardic Inspiration. The additional magic secrets, I would use that to pick up some radiant damage, because the Bard is a little low on that. Let's see here. Otherwise, we have the College of Spirits. I haven't seen the full version of the College of Spirits just yet. I do know that they keep the guidance cantrip, which is nice. And I do know that you can, the Tales from Beyond remains the same. So random buffs are not my favorite thing, but none of the buffs here are bad. I can't think of a situation where you would be upset to get one of these when you add in addition to your Bardic Inspiration. So don't think of this as a feature, think of this as an add-on to your Bardic Inspiration. Let's see here now. Then we have College of Whispers. I actually played a College of Whispers Bard in a Curse of Strahd campaign, and I had a lot of fun. The evil fighting evil is a very warming trope for me, and my Dragonborn Whispers Bard was not a good person, but he tried to do some meaningful things. The Psychic Blades is an additional use for your Bardic Inspiration that grows with you. It's kind of like a mini smite, and just like the other things that can be used with the Dhampir Bite, the Dhampir Bite is a simple weapon, and Psychic Blades, when you hit a creature with a weapon attack, you can expend a use of your Bardic Inspiration to deal damage. So, a Dhampir Bard, yeah, I could see it being College of Whispers. In fact, that may be a build I try to futz around with towards the end of this. We'll see. Let's see here now. That was the last Bard, so we move on to the Cleric. By default, any Cleric is good, just because of how loaded their spell list is with Radiant and Anti-Undead stuff. Their Channel Divinity by default just jacks Undead really, really hard. So, yeah, do not shy away from being Cleric. This is one of those campaign settings where a all-Cleric party would literally shine. But beyond just any Cleric is good, the Life Domain is, of course, great. It is the classic OG healer that pumps out health faster than most bad guys can burn it down. The Grave Domain, very fitting for this situationally, and is also another nobody dies Cleric subclass. If you want to do the evil fighting evil like with the Whispers, the Death Domain, when you get that level 6 necrotic damage, ignoring resistance to necrotic damage, it's a bit working up there, but I mean, sweet. Necrotic damage killing zombies just sounds fun to me. Moving to the Light Domain, this is very counter to the Death Domain. You have a lot of fire. I'm fairly sure there's at least a handful of undead that are vulnerable to fire. I'd have to read back over the full list of them. But that light cantrip for free never hurts. The Warding Flare protecting you. Like, each one of these abilities just builds up on each other to the point that, you are a radiant burning ball of doom. Twilight Domain, one of the new additions to the Cleric, works really well in this setting for the same reason that the Duergar and the Drow are okay in this setting, is because it's primarily low light. And a lot of your stuff either functions better in low light or is just broken, like having dark vision out to 300 feet. Yeah, it's not the infinite dark vision that we had with the UA, but it's still pretty good. That's more than double the range of a Drow, a Duergar, or anything else with advanced dark vision. And then we move on to the Druid. There's a couple Druids actually I kind of really like for this. Circle of Dreams Druid, Balm of the Summer Court, and Hearth of Moonlight and Shadows are both really strong in this setting because of the Balm of the Summer Court has that extra healing that you don't have to spend spell slots on. And then the Hearth of Moon and Shadows gives you a pretty safe place to bed down for a rests. And the fact that you can use it at every rest is really nice, and you don't have to wait 10 minutes for the wizard to cast Leomund's Tiny Hut. Don't get me wrong, Leomund's Tiny Hut, kind of better than this, but Hearth of Moonlight and Shadows, if you don't have the hut, is a decent alternative and much faster. The Hidden Path's really good for traveling around. Let's see here now. Circle of the Stars is another new one. The built-in guidance, the built-in radiant damage of the guiding bolt, really nice. And then the Starry Form Archer, where you have just default radiant ranged attack, really is nice too. Let's see here. Zizua says, I would have definitely multi-class to Twilight Cleric if it kept the longer sight range, where it could cover the really far length of Warlock spells with Spell Sniper and Elder. Yeah, I could definitely see that as being a little, oh wow, yeah, you have infinite vision and you can shoot something 1,200 feet away. Yeah, I can see how that could be a little problematic for some DMs. I'll tell you how to do it. Okay, we will go over how to get your Eldritch Blast up to 1,200 feet at the end of this. Someone remind me of that. Let's see here now. Yeah, anyway. Built-in radiant damage, really great in this setting. Circle of Moon is, again, Shifter, Path of the Beast. You have a wild animal inside you, and you need to let it out. You have 2 wolves inside you, and now they are mauling your opponents. Circle of Wildfire, I hesitated to put this one in, but just like the Light Cleric, the fire damage and the healing really make it good, and having a little friend that can run around and cause forest fires for you definitely does not hurt. If you want to play Pokemon Go in D&D, I would say definitely this one. And just have your own little fire Pokemon with you all the time. I like the Flaming Hawk. Let's see. Then we're moving on to the Monk. Starting with the Way of Mercy. This is very much, or was intended to be very much a Plague Doctor kind of one. Especially like, hey, look, you can get a Raven's Mask right at the start. The healing die, really good. Especially since you pretty quickly get your key back, you don't have to hold back on using healing. The same thing with the Hand of Harm. The downside is the Hand of Harm is necrotic. So you may see some resistance to that through various undead. Physician's Touch definitely helps with dealing with a lot of the status effects that some of the monsters are going to be throwing out at us. And Hand of Ultimate Mercy, basically having a free resurrection at once a day is, oh, that's sweet. Let's see here now. Then we're looking at the Way of Shadows Monk. Who doesn't want to play a ninja? Not quite fitting with the theme, though I am told that there may be some Oriental or Eastern style horror in the book. I haven't read any of the domains yet because it hasn't dropped, and I'm not unfortunate enough to receive previews. But this works really well in a shadowy dark setting either way, so definitely doesn't hurt. The fact that you have the Minor Illusion cantrip for free, and the fact that you can cast Darkness for 2 key points, and at higher levels you can see through your own darkness, really nice. You can still, did I remember that? Shadow Step. I may be thinking Warlock. Still, Darkness is great, especially considering how it puts you on even footing with other creatures with dark vision. Way of the Long Death is from the Sword Coast Adventures Guide, I believe. It's not as well known, but this is a tanky monk. The very first ability basically gives you temporary hit points every time you drop someone with unlimited reuses. So That's nice enough, but then you add Hour of Reaping where you can fear other things. And unless they're immune to fear, then put the monsters back on their heels with your own fear. Mastery of Death is nice. As long as you have key points, you can't die. So, yeah. And at level 11, you can basically be dropped to 0 hit points 11 times if you don't use your key points for anything else and stay at 1. Let's see here now. Then the next monk is Way of the Sun Soul. As I said earlier, Radiant is like in for this campaign setting. A lot of undead have vulnerability to Radiant or have mechanics that stop functioning when they take Radiant damage, especially at low levels. The fact that you can use it at range and as part of a flurry is really nice. The Burning Hand spell, the Searing Sunburst, and the Sun Shield are also good, but that Radiant damage that grows with your martial arts die is just beautiful. Then we move on to Paladin. Just like Cleric, there is no bad Paladin here. Some of them are a little bit better than others. I did not do the Oathbreaker because honestly, I really don't like the Oathbreaker that much. Even in this setting where you're likely to come across undead, I just do not feel there's that good of a Paladin, even for a villain. I would much rather see a Oath of Conquest evil Paladin than an Oathbreaker Paladin. But Oath of Devotion is just like the OG Life Cleric. This is the OG Paladin. You have plenty of stuff to deal radiant damage, to turn the unholy, to protect from evil, to heal and restore people from conditions. Just, so good in this setting. It's going to be great to see people with paladins just smacking werewolves and zombies. I know we have a zombie apocalypse setting, so cleric and devotion paladins in there, go zombie slay to your heart's content. Redemption paladin is just one of my favorite paladins. People like, oh, well, I mean, their wisdom thing says that they don't kill, and it's like, yeah, no, if these things are, if you're up against irredeemable evil, it's okay to kill stuff. The oath spells, that sanctuary at 3rd level is really nice. You're not going to get much use out of sleep or calm emotions or hold person, but the counter spell and the other spells after that are really good, especially hold monster and wall of force. The reflect damage channel divinity is, yes, that'll definitely save some lives and can put down an enemy or two. Let's see, Oath of Vengeance, just like the Oath of Devotion, this one is one of the original Paladin subclasses, and just like the Oath of Devotion, this one is really good at just dealing with stuff. With Bane and Hunter's Mark at 3rd level, you can make it harder for your opponents to attack, or you can hit targets much harder, and your abilities just build on that. And yes, Oathbreaker has the channel divinity that lets you control undead, but really, if you're using that as your fallback, you're still going to have to eventually deal with the undead, and yeah, it's the same reason why you don't have, well, we'll cover necromancers when we hit to wizards. But going on to ranger, Gloomstalker. Wow, what are the chances in a dark area, a creature, a character class that cannot be seen by creatures with dark vision in the dark would be useful. The fact that they hit an extra time when they first go in combat, and the extra damage even better. 60-foot dark vision, up to 90 foot if your dark vision race does not hurt, but the invisible to any creature that relies on dark vision to see you in darkness. Oh yeah, sneak up on the vampire and shank him in the back. Then we also have the Monster Slayer. Undead are really good at throwing out status effects, conditions, paralyzes, curses, and stuff like that. So the supernatural defense, where you just, yes, whenever your target of Slayer's prey forces to make a saving throw, whenever you make an ability check, add a d6 to your roll. Yeah, love it. Hold Monster is a great spell, even though you're not going to get that till late game. Protection from good and evil is also a good one. Hunter's Sense will help you track down and it'll tell you what creatures have immunities. So you can warn your Necromancer in your party to not bother casting necrotic spells on the zombies if they need to be told that. Knowing the vulnerabilities is even better, just because it'll help you tailor your stuff. Let's see here now. Yep. Moving on to the rogues. There is a rogue class that came out recently, the Phantom. I will cover that as well, but right now, looking at the Assassin, if you get a drop on the baddie, they're going to drop. That is the entire point of this class. I mean, the Imposter is a really nice ability. At 13th level, being able to infiltrate and setting up infiltration expertise and imposter both work together really well to deal with some of the more social aspects of the game, which is what we're told this module is going to have, and the Adventures League is going to be focused on. So definitely worth taking a look at. The Death Strike at high level does not hurt either. The Inquisitive Rogue is a really good option for if you don't have a Monster Hunter Ranger. You can hopefully, get some insight into what a creature is resistant to, what it's vulnerable to. Just be careful, because there's some cosmic horror stuff in here, and I don't know how well being perceptive and investigative will do for you in that. Then we have the Phantom Rogue that came out in Ticos. This is another one that's very on theme, with its abilities being centered around the dead and the dying. The abilities themselves are not bad, but really it's the flavor of the class that makes me want to recommend this one for the upcoming Van Richtens. Moving on to Sorcerer. Aberrant Mind, one of my favorite sorcerers. The fact that you can cast spells without material components if you pay for them with sorcery points is really powerful, especially in situations where you may not be free to move safely. Having telepathic speech is definitely a good one as well. The transformation is very body horror, and all in all, it fits very much with the cosmic horror. There's something extra about you. The Divine Soul, honestly, this class may be able to outstrip clerics in the amount of radiant damage that they deal. You can play Divine Soul as a healer, but really they do their best when they're just blasting holy light at your opponents. The high level unearthly recovery ability is really nice. You can basically, if you're at fewer than half your hit points, you can gain half your hit points. Shadow Magic is very in theme here. But honestly, for all that stuff, Strength of the Grave being like, if you drop to 1, you drop to 0, you instead drop to 1. Having the Darkness spell, that's great. You get your puppy. You have to get to 6th level, but at 6th level, you can summon a puppy to attack your opponents. And who doesn't want to have a little canine friend? Going on to the Warlock. The Warlock recommendations are not too... Anyway, the Celestial is a nice one. You have the extra light cantrip. You have extra healing in the form of the healing light. The Sacred Flame cantrip is nice to have radiant damage. Celestial Resistance is also a really useful one where you can get temporary hit points. The Undead is going to be revised into this. I don't know the specifics of how it came out, though I do know that it maintains the form of Dread in a revised version, and that the other abilities build on top of it, but it's very in theme. And so is the Undying, especially with the Among the Dead ability. I would say the Undead and the Undying, one is kind of a tank warlock, designed to be out there in the face of the opponent dealing damage, and the other is designed to be in the back and throwing out damage through other means. So, and I mean, honestly, Undead and Undying, you could have them both have the same patron if you have two warlocks. Who would be in a group with two warlocks? That would be weird. Moving on to Wizard, School of Enchantment, just like with the Aberrant Mind Sorcerer. I really like this for the mind-bending effects. You're likely to use this on intragniscent or difficult NPCs more than you are on monsters. Though, if you can get away with using it on a monster, go for it. Wizards, by their nature, are utility casters, so you'll hopefully have lots of tricks up your sleeve as needed. School of Necromancy is, of course, very in theme for this. If your party is okay with you having undead, just keep in mind that most undead and a lot of monsters that we're going to be seeing in this are resistant to necrotic damage, so make sure you have other damage sources available to you. And finally, just because I like it, and because the flavor, how you flavor the spells, can really fit into the body horror trope, is the School of Transmutation. I can see, like, the jump spell twisting the wizard's or the target's legs to be more kangaroo-like, or Expeditious Retreat warping their body to be more streamlined. The Minor Alchemy is useful because you can get silver on there. So it's a quick and easy way to get access to some silver if you are going up against a lycanthrope and you need some way to stop that regeneration. The Transmuter Stone those resistances are going to be your default or the proficiency in Constitution saving throws. The Dark Vision and the increase to speed don't hurt though. Shape Changer and Master Transmuter are also really good at higher levels. When you get to the Restore Life, you can cast Raise Dead. A free Raise Dead. Let's see. On a creature we touch with the Transmuter Stone without expending the spell slot. Okay, no, you'll still need the material component, but still, a wizard being able to cast Raise Dead is nothing to sneeze at. Restore Youth is also a really good one. And most of these are repeatable. So, yeah. Don't be afraid to abuse those transmutation properties once you hit the 14th level. You've earned it. So yeah, those are the races and the classes that I think would be really good for Van Richtens. I'm going to just go ahead and end the stream just about here. I just wanted to get that out. I hope everyone is looking forward to this upcoming book as much as I am. Join us this Sunday. We'll be doing another episode of Dragon's Roost with Zizva and Tux. To everyone who will not be here, and to every mother, have a happy Mother's Day. To everyone who's followed us recently, thank you so much. We're so happy to have you. We are so close to 100 people following us. If we could get y'all to go and follow us on YouTube at some point, we'd really appreciate that, because that's where we're working towards getting our custom URL. Otherwise, you know what? have fun, and in 11 days, we'll hopefully see what else has been added with Van Richten's.